Traci Reed here today, coming at you with a life crafted album using the new Wildflower collection that just hit my store this weekend. This is part of the YouTube hop for the TRD team. There is a link to everyone else in the description box below so that you can hop along and get inspired with the new Wildflower collection. So today I'm going to be scrapbooking these photos of my bestie and I in the bougie plant store downtown. It was the first time that we went. They were having a sidewalk sale, but of course we didn't buy any of the sidewalk sale plants. We bought what called to us, what our heart was wanting. So I'm going to be creating with one of the cut files from the collection, and I think I'm going to watercolor this with some Catherine Pooler inks. I'm going to be sticking mostly with the greens and the yellows for this page, so I pulled out greens and yellows that would match. I feel like this is a little bit bluer than the green in the Wildflower collection, but it's like the closest dark green I have, so we're going to work with it. Then we've got yellow and green, so let's start going.
All right, so the first thing I needed to do was get this watercoloring down because it was going to take a while to dry, right? So I used my Catherine Pooler inks and some water, and all I did was dip watercolor all of these leaves and also the bottom edge of this wild cut file. So you can see I'm just dropping them right in the watercoloring, and I'm dipping the bottom edge of this wild. I'm going to use a little bit of my paintbrush just to make it a little darker, but you can see how gorgeous this turned out. Super easy and really fun too. After I finished all of these leaves, I decided to use the rest to create a paper. I didn't want to waste all of that ink, so I created a background paper using all of that watercolor, but I'm not going to use it in this video. It's really pretty though, so we'll see. So I let all of these dry, and now I'm going to separate them out so that I can see them all, and I'm going to be using the Wildflower collection, of course. What's hilarious about this layout to me is that I love the blue in this collection. It is gorgeous, and I use absolutely none of it, none, in this layout. At first, I just am pulling colors to match the watercoloring I did, but then at some point I realized that there's like literally no blue except for the tiny bit on the journaling card that's going to be tucked into a pocket. So I just go with it and decide no blue at all. So I need to figure out which way I want this wild to be. I initially had planned it to be the other way around, but I didn't love the way that those flowers sort of infringed upon the photo a little bit too much, so I'm gonna turn it around, and the watercoloring part is going to be on the inside, which means that a little bit of it is going to get covered up, but that's okay. There's enough going on with the flowers, the leaves, and the watercoloring the way I build this page that it's totally fine. So speaking of, I'm going to start putting all of these leaves all around the page. I'm going to plan it out before I stick anything down, which is very smart of me and not something I normally do. But since I knew that these were going to need to be stuck down with liquid glue, I knew I needed to plan it out before I started. So I want a bunch coming out from the photo itself and then wrapping around that wild word bit. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I guess it's not a word bit, it's a cut file. So that's what I'm doing here, making sure that there's a good balance of the deeper greens and the greenish yellows. Initially, I thought that green was going to be too blue, and it is a little bit more blue than the green in the collection, but the yellow sort of tempers that out, but also it matches the greens really well in all of the photos that I have, so it worked out pretty perfectly, even though it was definitely a different green. But, look at how pretty that is. So I'm going to spare you the sticking down a portion, because I'm just going to put everything right back where it was, or at least close enough. But I've got all of those stuck down with liquid glue now, and I made sure to avoid the holes as much as possible. And now I'm going to work on the other side. So obviously I want the left-hand side to be sort of the statement piece, but this side needs to be interesting too. I have two photos. One is of the plants that I bought and one is of their little sign. The sidewalk sale actually got moved inside because it was so cold and windy the day that we went that it just couldn't be outside. So it made this really adorable sort of sign plus plants in the background that just begged for a photo, right? So I'm going to matte this on green. I was debating between the wood grain and the green. I decided I wanted both, so I'm going to actually matte both photos on green, and then I'm going to create the pocket out of the wood grain, so I get the best of both worlds. I thought that the green really made the photo stand out better than the wood grain did, but I wanted to bring the wood grain over from the other side. I'm trimming off the excess pattern around the outside of this card, one, because it had some blue that I didn't really want, but two, because it needed to be a little bit smaller so that this pocket wouldn't have to be too large. Using my circle punch to create a little notch at the top of my pocket. And then I'm going to glue my photo right down to the front of it. And then use my red line tape plus pocket trick to make rails for this card to go in properly. I need to trim this down though, of course. A little bit too large. And then you can see I put the red line tape around the edges of where I want the card to slip into, and I'm just going to put this right here. I need to stick that other photo sort of underneath it, so I'm going to make sure I don't stick it down all the way at the top before I do that. Okay. I don't want to cover up that sign too much, but it can't be at the top of the page. So I'm just going to scooch it right down in there so that just the bottom is covered up. That makes a cool layered effect, especially when you take the card coming out of the pocket into account. So that's pretty neat. But I do need to make that card stand out a little bit more. I decided I was going to add Go Wild on like a label with that title, and I left it there for a while, but I decided that I didn't like it. I'm going to use this Bloom and Grow as my tab. So I end up having a lot of circles as word bits and things on this page. So I struggle just a touch with how to embellish this for just a few minutes, but it came together really well. I wanted these yellow cons. Part of what's hilarious about our friendship is that we are like the same but polar opposites, and we both have Converse. I have hot pink ones, she has black ones, so I had to have a nod to our Converse with these yellow cons. I'm not going to use the green ones, even though I do want to. I'm going to use something else, but the yellow ones framed that photo really well, so those definitely went on. Plus I had to cover up that green spot from the watercolor that was on my photo. Adding happy moment down there, deciding against the rest of that title. All right, so I'm kind of going through trying to figure out what we need here. I'm going to add in some hearts, of course. Always a good idea to layer with hearts. Adding hello to the photo of the plants, because hello, my new babies. So you can see me here going, oh, no, we're not going to do blue. I'm going to add in these extra leaves that I had, and I really think that that's what made this start coming together for me, at least mentally, because now we have some of that green over there and some repetition between this page and that page, which helped me sort of visualize the rest of this page and how to finish it off. Trying to get this up, but it didn't want to come up because of that red line tape, so we're just going to stick it underneath the photo instead of the whole pocket, of course. All right, so that gives me a little bit of a base to start embellishing on top of, something that it like just bridged the gap a little bit better for me, I think, and gave me like a place to start, which made my brain function a little bit better for the embellishing portion. Trying out all of the different things that I pulled out, you know that is my typical mode of operation, is I'll pull everything out and then slowly start putting things back as I eliminate them from my from my layout, like I'm not going to use them. All right. We're getting this. Take off one of those leaves, put them back on, take it off, put it back on. That's how I'm rolling today. Do I want these? Maybe, no, I can't decide. It was a little bit of a struggle. It's always a little bit of a struggle with me to start a collection when I have so many things to choose from. So I decided instead that the butterflies were perfect. So I'm popping them up with pop dots, and you can see that they are just the perfect addition to this page visually. So that's working for me a little bit better. Decide against adding more butterflies, but that portion down there is a little bit blank and it's sort of bothering me. So I'm going to add this label that I actually created in my Silhouette software with digital stamps. There is a reel on my Instagram about this. Very handy dandy trick. So I have a whole page of labels that I can recolor from this collection. So I'm going to add this here, and then I'm going to put a word strip on top of it and call it good. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Traci M. Reed. There is a whole list of all the other YouTube hop participants in the comment section below. All right, thank you.